Stop buying testosterone boosters until you watch this. The 2026 Senior Food Pyramid identified a single mineral, cheap, found in real food, available at any supermarket, that your body requires to produce testosterone and that the majority of men over 70 are severely deficient in. No prescription needed. This video is for educational purposes only. Hormonal health is complex and individual. The information presented is based on the 2026 dietary guidelines and peer-reviewed nutritional research. Do not discontinue any prescribed treatment without consulting your doctor. If you have concerns about testosterone levels, seek proper medical evaluation. Testosterone decline in men after 60 is real, measurable, and consequential. It affects muscle mass, bone density, energy levels, mood, libido, and cognitive function. Most men over 70 have testosterone levels 30 to 50% lower than at 40. The conventional medical response is either hormone replacement therapy or resigned acceptance. What the 2026 dietary guidelines and nutritional science now make clear is that a significant portion of this hormonal decline is not inevitable. It is nutritional. Specifically, it is the consequence of chronic deficiency in two minerals that the modern Western diet fails to deliver, and that old dietary guidelines inadvertently made worse. Are you over 65 and dealing with fatigue, reduced strength, or low energy that your doctor has not been able to explain? Tell us in the comments, and share this with the men in your life, a husband, a brother, a friend. This might be the information they have been missing for years. The more critical of the two minerals is zinc. Zinc functions as a direct cofactor in the enzymatic conversion of cholesterol into testosterone within the Leydig cells of the testes. The Leydig cells require zinc not as general nutritional support, but as a specific biochemical tool that the conversion reaction cannot proceed without. When zinc is deficient, testosterone synthesis slows regardless of how much raw material, in the form of dietary cholesterol, is available. The pathway is blocked. Zinc also inhibits aromatase, the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into estrogen. This second function is equally important and frequently overlooked. Low zinc status does not simply reduce testosterone production. It simultaneously accelerates the conversion of whatever testosterone is produced into estrogen. This creates a compounding effect. Less testosterone being made, and more of what is made being converted away. The result is a hormonal environment characterized by relatively low testosterone and relatively elevated estrogen. This worsens the fatigue, body composition changes, and mood effects that men attribute to aging. The richest dietary sources of zinc are precisely the foods that the old food pyramid discouraged most aggressively. Red meat, particularly beef and lamb, provides zinc in a highly bioavailable form. Shellfish, and oysters specifically, contain more zinc per gram than any other food on Earth. A single serving of 6 oysters can contain 40 to 70 milligrams of zinc. The 2026 Food Pyramid's rehabilitation of red meat and shellfish as nutritionally valuable foods is not incidental to hormonal health. For older men, it is central to it. Plant-based zinc sources, beans, lentils, pumpkin seeds, whole grains, contain zinc in a form that is substantially less bioavailable. The phytic acid naturally present in these foods binds zinc in the digestive tract and prevents absorption. Studies show the body extracts 2 to 3 times more zinc from animal foods. A man eating a predominantly plant-based diet and relying on legumes and grains for his zinc intake is almost certainly running a functional zinc deficit. Carlos was 74, retired, and had been feeling progressively more fatigued, less motivated, and physically weaker for 3 years. He reported reduced libido and a general flatness of mood. His doctor confirmed low testosterone, but advised against replacement therapy. a nutrition-focused practitioner suggested a different approach. Increase zinc-rich animal foods, add magnesium, and eliminate seed oils. After 4 months, his follow-up panel showed a 28% increase in free testosterone. His energy had returned noticeably. His wife told him she had her husband back. The second mineral, magnesium, works through a different but complementary mechanism. Magnesium reduces the circulating levels of sex hormone-binding globulin. SHBG binds testosterone in the bloodstream and renders it biologically inactive. Bound testosterone cannot interact with androgen receptors in muscle tissue, bone, or the brain. The testosterone that matters for muscle maintenance, cognitive function, energy, and sexual health is free testosterone, the fraction not bound to SHBG. Magnesium supplementation and dietary magnesium adequacy have been shown to reduce SHBG levels in men, increasing the proportion of total testosterone that circulates in a biologically active form. This means that magnesium can effectively raise functional testosterone levels even in men whose total testosterone measurement is not dramatically low, by shifting the balance. A note worth making here: none of the dietary changes described in this video are substitutes for proper medical evaluation if you are experiencing significant symptoms related to testosterone deficiency. Severe fatigue, significant loss of muscle mass, depression, and sexual dysfunction all have multiple possible causes beyond nutritional deficiency, and some warrant direct clinical assessment. What I am describing is the nutritional foundation that makes hormonal health possible. If that foundation is compromised, addressing it is both necessary and insufficient for some individuals. Talk to your doctor. Get tested. And bring this information with you when you do. If this is making sense to you, if you are realizing that your body may simply be asking for what it was always designed to eat, write in the comments, "My vitality is coming back." Hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next video in this series. The relationship between dietary cholesterol and testosterone is another piece of this story that the old dietary guidelines inadvertently damaged. Testosterone is a steroid hormone, and all steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol. The Leydig cells that produce testosterone require a continuous supply of cholesterol as raw material. When dietary cholesterol is severely restricted, as it was under the standard advice given to men over 60 for decades, the body's ability to maintain the substrate supply for testosterone synthesis is compromised. The 2026 dietary guidelines removed the previous restrictions on dietary cholesterol intake, acknowledging that the evidence for limiting dietary cholesterol as a cardiovascular protective measure was substantially weaker than previously claimed. For men's hormonal health, this reversal matters specifically because the foods highest in dietary cholesterol, eggs, red meat, shellfish, full-fat dairy, are also the foods highest in bioavailable zinc. Let me lay out a practical nutritional protocol for supporting testosterone production through food. Twice a week, include red meat at dinner, beef or lamb, providing both zinc and cholesterol in their most bioavailable forms. Once a week, eat oysters or other shellfish if accessible and affordable. Daily, include eggs, at least 3 whole eggs, for cholesterol, zinc, vitamin D, and the full fat-soluble vitamin complex that supports hormonal synthesis. Add a handful of pumpkin seeds as a snack 3 to 4 times per week for magnesium and plant-based zinc as secondary support. Prioritize leafy greens daily for magnesium, and consider adding almonds or cashews to your regular eating pattern. Replace cooking oils with butter or tallow, which provides the stable saturated fat environment that hormonal synthesis enzymes function best within. This protocol requires no specialty products, no expensive supplements, and no dramatic dietary restructuring. It is the removal of nutritional deficiencies that should never have developed, and a return to the eating pattern that human hormonal physiology evolved around. The testosterone booster supplement market is worth billions of dollars annually and is directed specifically at men experiencing the fatigue, reduced strength, and hormonal decline we have been discussing. The evidence base for most of these products is thin at best and absent at worst. The ingredients lists of many popular testosterone boosters contain zinc and magnesium, which is effectively an acknowledgement that deficiency in these minerals is driving the problem they claim to address. But the zinc in most supplements is in forms of moderate bioavailability that cannot replicate the absorption efficiency of zinc from red meat and oysters. And the dose and delivery context of isolated supplements cannot replicate the synergistic effect of these minerals consumed within a complete food matrix alongside the cholesterol, the saturated fats, and the cofactors that the entire testosterone synthesis pathway requires. Real food is not a poorer substitute for supplements in this case. Supplements are a poorer substitute for real food. Sleep quality and testosterone are connected in a way that most men over 60 who are experiencing hormonal decline need to understand. The majority of daily testosterone production in men occurs during deep sleep, specifically during the slow-wave sleep phases that dominate the first half of the night. Chronic sleep insufficiency, defined as consistently less than 7 hours, suppresses testosterone production measurably. A study measuring testosterone in young, healthy men found that 1 week of sleeping 5 hours per night reduced testosterone levels by 10 to 15%. In older men with already reduced hormonal output, this suppression is likely more consequential. The dietary changes that support hormonal production also support sleep quality. Adequate magnesium relaxes the nervous system and promotes deeper sleep stages. Stable blood sugar from protein-adequate evening meals prevents the cortisol spikes that fragment sleep architecture, and the elimination of inflammatory seed oils reduces the systemic oxidative stress that impairs recovery during sleep. The interventions are not separate. They form a coherent system. Age-related testosterone decline is real, but the gap between the testosterone level that is simply a function of age and the testosterone level that results from age compounded by years of nutritional deficiency is larger than most men realize. You cannot reverse aging. You can close the nutritional gap, and the distance between where most men are and where they could be on the basis of nutrition alone is substantial enough to produce changes that are felt clearly and measured objectively. That is not a promise made by a supplement label. It is what the science says, and it is what the 2026 dietary guidelines now formally acknowledge. Stress and cortisol represent the hormonal counterpart to the testosterone story, and they are worth understanding together. Cortisol and testosterone are produced from the same precursor pool of cholesterol, and they compete for it. Under conditions of chronic stress, the body prioritizes cortisol production, the stress response being evolutionarily more urgent than reproductive capacity. Chronically elevated cortisol directly suppresses the activity of the hypothalamic-pituitary-gonadal axis, the hormonal signaling chain that instructs the Leydig cells to produce testosterone. This is one of the reasons why older men under sustained psychological or physiological stress, including the stress of chronic illness, chronic pain, or chronic nutritional deficiency, tend to have lower testosterone levels. The nutritional interventions that reduce systemic inflammation also reduce one of the primary physiological stressors that elevates cortisol. Adequate sleep reduces cortisol. Stable blood sugar reduces cortisol. The dietary changes that support testosterone production through zinc and magnesium adequacy simultaneously reduce the cortisol competition that suppresses it. Vitamin D completes the picture by functioning as a direct hormone rather than a conventional vitamin. Vitamin D receptors are found in the Leydig cells, and vitamin D status is positively correlated with testosterone levels in multiple large-scale population studies. Men with vitamin D levels in the optimal range consistently show higher testosterone than men who are deficient. The mechanism involves vitamin D's role in regulating the expression of the genes involved in testosterone synthesis. Given that vitamin D deficiency is estimated to affect between 60 and 80% of adults over 60 in northern latitudes, and that the foods highest in vitamin D overlap significantly with the foods highest in zinc and cholesterol, sardines, egg yolks, beef liver, full-fat dairy, the 2026 Food Pyramid's rehabilitation of these foods addresses multiple hormonal pathways simultaneously through a single dietary shift. The bone health dimension of testosterone is one that men often underestimate relative to women, who are more frequently warned about osteoporosis. Testosterone plays a direct role in maintaining bone mineral density in men, stimulating the osteoblast activity that builds new bone tissue and suppressing the osteoclast activity that breaks it down. Men with chronically low testosterone show accelerated bone loss, and the fracture risk associated with osteoporosis is as serious in older men as it is in older women, though it tends to occur about a decade later. The nutritional strategy for testosterone support through zinc and magnesium adequacy is therefore also a bone health strategy. Zinc is a cofactor in the synthesis of osteocalcin, a protein essential for bone mineralization. Magnesium is structurally incorporated into the hydroxyapatite crystal that gives bone its density. These are not separate systems connected by coincidence. They are aspects of the same integrated metabolic network that real food, consumed in adequate variety and quantity, supports simultaneously. The practical reality check for most men reading this is that the dietary changes required to address zinc and magnesium deficiency are not burdensome. They require switching from the foods that were incorrectly discouraged to the foods that human physiology was designed around. The grocery list is not exotic. Beef, lamb, oysters when available, eggs, leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, full-fat dairy, and butter for cooking. These are foods that previous generations ate without the knowledge of why they worked. The science now explains the mechanism. What has changed is not the food. It is the official recognition that the food was right all along. Give it 12 weeks. Not as a test of willpower, but as a genuine experiment in what your body can do when it has the raw materials it needs. Track your energy, your strength, your sleep quality, and your general sense of being yourself. Most men who follow through on this consistently report changes that begin subtly in the first month and become clearly noticeable by week 8 to 12. The biology is not slow. It responds to adequate nutrition with the efficiency that 40 years of evolution built into it. You just have to give it the chance. One aspect of this conversation that deserves directness is the social dimension of testosterone decline, specifically the reluctance of many older men to discuss it. Fatigue and reduced motivation are attributed to stress. Reduced libido is attributed to relationship dynamics or simply to getting older. Loss of muscle mass is attributed to not working out enough. The internal experience of hormonal decline is often interpreted through a lens that locates the problem in behavior, effort, or inevitability, rather than in biochemistry. This makes the decline feel like a personal failure, rather than a physiological condition with a nutritional component. It is neither. It is a predictable consequence of eating patterns that were recommended in good faith and have now been identified as inadequate. Naming it clearly is not a source of shame. It is the beginning of doing something about it. The men who benefit most from the dietary changes described in this video tend to be those who were previously most compliant with the old guidelines. Those who avoided red meat, limited eggs, used vegetable oil for cooking, and ate a predominantly grain-based diet, in the belief that this was the heart-healthy approach. Compliance with the old guidelines was not protection from hormonal decline. In many cases, it accelerated it. The irony is significant, and it matters that it be stated plainly rather than softened. What the 2026 dietary guidelines represent, in the context of men's hormonal health, is an official acknowledgement that the foods capable of supporting testosterone production through zinc, cholesterol, vitamin D, and saturated fat adequacy were mistakenly removed from the Western diet for 4 decades. The correction is now official. What remains is the practical decision of whether to act on it. The aromatization problem is worth spending a moment on because it is one of the least understood aspects of male hormonal decline, and one of the most practically addressable through diet. Aromatase is an enzyme present in adipose tissue, in the liver, and in several other tissues, and it converts testosterone into estradiol, a form of estrogen. In younger men, aromatase activity is balanced by adequate testosterone production and kept in check by adequate zinc. In older men, several factors conspire to increase aromatase activity and reduce the defenses against it. Body fat tends to increase with age, and adipose tissue is a primary site of aromatase activity, meaning more body fat directly means more testosterone converted to estrogen. Zinc deficiency removes the aromatase inhibition that limits this conversion. Chronic inflammation from seed oils and processed foods further upregulates aromatase gene expression. The result is an older man whose testosterone production has declined while the rate at which that testosterone is converted to estrogen has simultaneously increased. This is why some older men present with hormonal profiles showing low testosterone and elevated estrogen, with symptoms including fatigue, reduced muscle mass, increased fat deposition around the abdomen, and mood changes that do not fit the expected picture of simple testosterone deficiency. The dietary solution addresses both sides of this equation. Zinc restores aromatase inhibition. Reducing body fat through protein-adequate lower carbohydrate eating reduces the adipose tissue mass, driving aromatase activity. Reducing systemic inflammation suppresses the gene expression upregulation of aromatase. Increasing the cholesterol supply through real food improves substrate availability for testosterone synthesis. Each of these changes is achievable through the same dietary shift: more animal protein, more zinc-rich foods, fewer refined carbohydrates, no refined seed oils. The body has a strong default toward hormonal balance when the nutritional conditions for it are present. Decades of suboptimal eating do not permanently damage the system. They suppress it, restore the conditions, and the system responds. That is not a marketing claim. It is the biological reality that the 2026 dietary guidelines have finally given official voice to. Start with one change this week. Buy a piece of red meat. Cook it in butter. Eat it with a side of leafy greens. That is the beginning of a different hormonal trajectory, built not from a bottle on a pharmacy shelf, but from the same foods that kept men strong for 10,000 years before anyone told them those foods were dangerous. There is a broader point embedded in this video that I want to make explicit before we close. The hormonal decline that is now considered a normal feature of male aging in Western medicine is not universal. Studies comparing testosterone levels across populations eating traditional whole food diets to those eating industrialized Western diets consistently show significant differences, with men in traditional food cultures maintaining measurably higher testosterone levels into older age. The difference is not genetic, it is dietary. The cultures with the highest sustained testosterone levels in older men tend to eat the foods most discouraged by the old guidelines: red meat, organ meats, animal fats, shellfish, full-fat dairy. This is not a coincidence. It is a signal that has been visible in the data for decades, and that has finally been acknowledged in the direction of official nutritional policy. You are not just a statistic in an age-related decline curve. You are someone whose biochemistry responds to inputs, and who has more control over those inputs than the standard narrative of hormonal aging suggests. Use that control. The evidence supports it. The guidelines now support it. And your body, given the chance, will confirm it. You know what to do. The food is available. The science is clear. The only question is when you start. Thank you for watching until the end. Drop a like and a comment. It genuinely helps this channel grow and reach the people who need this information. If you want to support us further, the Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description. Your support means more content like this. Stay well, stay strong.